What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. We got college football week 2. Week 1 did not disappoint. Really some exciting games. Obviously, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish squeaked out an overtime win. But really, is Notre Dame overrated yet again? That's one of my fears. We really play well during the regular season, but when it comes playoff time, what happens to Notre Dame? They end up choking it. We just look back at the past decade, the past 10 years. What's happened? We played Alabama a couple times, got destroyed. We played Clemson. We played Georgia in the regular season and got not really destroyed, but lost. We got to win these big games, and it really boils down to the defense, the secondary, in the front seven of Notre Dame. Are they really legit? We really saw some good plays by the defense, especially Kyle Hamilton, that safety, ball hawk. I think he did great. But shout out to Jack Cohn. I think this guy, he kind of reminds me a little like Russell Wilson mixed in with some Andrew Luck. He's got an arm, and I like the way he's going. So when you put up 41 points on Florida State, that's not a walk in the park. So he could really score on anybody in the country. I believe that ultimately. But can Notre Dame beat like Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, or Clemson? That's the real question. That's the real test. Notre Dame's hardest game this year is probably Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's no joke anymore. We saw what happened last year. They easily should have beat Georgia. There were a couple really bad calls late game, especially in that fourth quarter. Like the 4th and 2. I didn't like the call they did. I just thought they should have did maybe like a read option, something different. Just mix it up. But, Jack Cohn, he's legit. It's going to go really how he wants to go. If he's going to put up over 300 yards a game, absolutely. Notre Dame's going to destroy every team. But it really boils down to the special teams and the defense year in and year out for Notre Dame. We saw, back to the Bama game this recent year. We saw Bama just run on Notre Dame, just do really anything they want. So I think Brian Kelly's got to make some key adjustments and really move forward here. And we have to understand the poll's going to look at Notre Dame and say, is it going to be the same story? Same thing with Oklahoma. They get all this hype. They get all this momentum. And then what happens to Oklahoma? They ended up blowing it yet again. And they almost blew it in the first game against Tulane. They were number two ranked country in the country. And I'm over here thinking, what? Oklahoma? You guys barely beat Tulane, dude. I just don't know about them. Same thing with Notre Dame. It's a toss-up. But they play Toledo and Mac School. They should destroy Toledo. 17 is the cover. Look, Notre Dame, they should blow them out, right? According to the numbers, I just think Notre Dame, they need to come out hungry here. They need to come out like they're ready to go. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I'll take the 17 points. I just think Jack Cohn is going to really ball out and continue to thrive. If he's throwing for 3+ touchdowns a game, Notre Dame will definitely make the playoffs. It's just how far can they go? Can they win the big game and make it to the national championship? We don't know. I can't wait to see. Go Irish. I got Notre Dame covering the 17. 55.5 is the over-under. I would go with the over here. I expect Notre Dame to put up some crazy numbers today or tomorrow and really just go in. So, I'm going with Notre Dame all day, every day. I'll take the 17. Then we got Chirp, Ball State versus Penn State. Penn State, one of the biggest stadiums in college football. It's amazing. Over 100,000 people sit there. It's crazy. They're opening up as favorites, as 22-point favorites. Ball State, they got a lot to cover, right? They're 2020 MAC champions. And really, the offensive line, shout out to Caleb Slavin, went to my high school, number 77. It really starts with their front seven. It really does. Their offensive linemen, are they going to protect Drew? He's had a great season last year leading into this year. And really, the Ball State defense. I really think, what's going to happen there. Jalen Thomas, a great linebacker. And then Brandon Martin, he won MAC Defensive Player of the Year this past year. He averaged over 11 tackles a game. 11 tackles. Shout out to Brandon Martin. He's a baller. Ball State, they're going into this game with an 8-game winning streak. So I expect Ball State to really show out here. Why not? I expect Ball State to really come in and really prove to the world, hey, we can play against anybody. We don't care if it's Big Ten. We don't care what type of athletes we're facing, we're going to go against them. And it really starts with Ball State's offensive line and their defense, their linebackers, Jalen and Brandon. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Obviously, going with my heart, I'm definitely going to go Ball State. But going with my mind, I'll go Penn State, but definitely not the 22-point spread. I think Penn State will maybe squeak out a win here, win by like 10 or 13 points, somewhere around there. But I would love ultimately to see Ball State win, and I would love it, dude. This would be a great upset in Ball State. If they can continue to win on this winning streak, 100% they can repeat MAC champions. Go Ball State, chirp, chirp. But I'm essentially going to go Penn State, but not the spread. I would go money line Penn State on this one all day. But go Ball State, baby. Then we got Oregon versus Ohio State. Probably the best game yet this weekend. Ohio State 14.5-point favorites. Well-deserved. Look, Ohio State year in and year out to get the best recruits. We saw what happened last year. But can Ohio State win a national championship? They haven't won since Ezekiel Elliott was there back in 2014, 2015 time. Zeke, balling out with the Dallas Cowboys. But Ohio State, man, they just have better athletes normally than everybody else. Them and Bama. I feel like Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, those type of schools get the best athletes. But Oregon's no pushover here. Anthony Brown, their quarterback, he can run, he can throw. 172 yards and a touchdown last game. Ohio State needs to put pressure on him because if they let Anthony Brown run or just really just uncomfortable in the pocket, it's going to be a long night, long day for Ohio State, and expect an upset here. But ultimately, at home, Ohio State, I think I got to go Ohio State here. But 14.5 is way too much. I think they're going to win by maybe a touchdown here. I think this is going to be a really close game, and I do expect it to be a high-scoring game. I really do. 63.5 is the over-under. It seems like a lot, right? But a lot of people are saying, you know what, it's going to be high-scoring, a lot of yards here, so over would make more sense. But, we could see that old school mentality of football. Defense wins championships. We're going to put pressure on you. We're going to do whatever it takes. But ultimately, I like Ohio State in this matchup, mainly money line. I like the money lines a lot more than the covers because it's hard. It is really hard to cover. But 14.5, a lot of people are going Ohio State. But I'll take Ohio State money line. Then we got Alabama State versus Auburn. Another weak school that an SEC school is playing. Auburn's 49.5-point favorites. I mean, obviously, I would go money line on this. Quarterback Bo Nix, he had 3 touchdowns in week 1 last week. Tank Bigsby, he had 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. Over 9 yards per carry. So I expect Auburn to get that running game going and open it up with the play action. And I expect Auburn to win this game nicely. But 49 points, I would not do that. That's just really disrespect, but to me, it probably will happen, but I would go money line yet again. I like Auburn. I'll take Auburn all day. Then we got Florida versus South Florida. Florida's opening up at 28.5-point favorites, and these lines can change, prior to the game, minutes before the game. But look, Emory Jones, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, really a shaky start at quarterback, but I expect them to bounce back. I expect Florida to win this game soundly, and then next week, I believe they go and play Bama here. So this is going to be great. But look, Florida, they have their hands full, but I like Florida in this matchup. South Florida can give them problems. 28.5 is a lot. These college spreads are so much more than the NFL, right? Just crazy how much more depth it gets. How much spread? 28.5, dude. Just think some of these spreads are like 50 points, dude. It's just like, man, for these top schools, it's like they should be playing, the best schools. There should be no weak schedule, games here. We see Bama playing like a nobody. Same thing with Auburn, Alabama State. Like, who's heard of Alabama State before? It's like, come on, NCAA, work something out. But I like Florida over South Florida. 58.5 is the over-under. I would mainly go with the under here. Although, last week I went with the over a lot. And a lot of the games were under, so you just never know with the over-under. It's just so wishy-washy with that aspect. But I do like the Gators overall 100%. The most surprising team last year is last week is definitely Virginia Tech, dude. Virginia Tech, beating North Carolina. They were underdogs. And it really started with their quarterback, Braxton. He had 169 yards, one touchdown, one pick. But really, they got it done. And I expect them to be MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. I really do. I just think, we remember Middle Tennessee State from NCAA when they beat Michigan State in basketball in the tournament. This was years ago. But look, I like Virginia Tech. I really do. The 20-point spread, I'll take that. I like Virginia Tech at home. And look, Virginia Tech might not be an easy pushover this year. They can possibly run the table. Probably not, but it's possible. I like Virginia Tech all day, every day. Then we got UAB versus Georgia. Georgia's 22.5-point favorites. Look, Georgia, to me, they are the team to beat. They proved to me that, hey, we can beat Clemson. We can beat anybody. We're going to have to play Bama at some point and sometime later on in the year, maybe the SEC championship or even in the playoffs. I think Georgia is battle-tested. They have the best defense coming in. We saw what Christopher Smith did, pick six against Clemson. Pick six DJ. It was iconic. And defense wins championships. Held Clemson to only 3 points. This is crazy, dude. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Clemson, it's over for them." No. Let's pump the brakes here. Dabo Swinney, look, he's ranked 5th right now. He's not really worried about it. Okay, he can still win out and make the playoffs with one loss. So I think, with Clemson, they can't lose again, but they can still get in there. But I like Georgia with 22.5. I like that. I think Georgia's going to come out with JT Daniels. Really didn't have a great game, last week at Clemson. I think, really needs to bounce back here, throw a couple touchdown passes, show us that the Dogs can compete against Bama. I like Georgia all day. Then we got Texas A&M versus Colorado. Texas A&M 17-point favorites. They have always a great offense year in and year out. Look, Haynes King, he had 2 touchdowns and 3 picks. Really a shaky start. Colorado, they're going to have to do something different, right? Mix it up here. Brandon Lewis, their quarterback, he had 102 yards last week and a touchdown. But look, ultimately, Texas A&M, I just feel like they're going to win, but not by 17. I think this game's going to be a little bit more close than what we're expecting. I would go money line, Texas A&M all day there. Then we got Murray State versus Cincinnati, and this is what I'm talking about. Murray State, come on. Cincinnati, they're a top 10 team right now. They're 35.5-point favorites, and it starts with their quarterback Desmond Ryder. He's got 4 touchdowns last week and an interception. He's 31-5 as a starter at Cincinnati. This is it for them. Cincinnati, if they win out, they will get in that 4th spot. They well-deserved should, right? If Cincinnati beats Notre Dame this year, wins out their whole schedule, 100% they should get in the 4th seed. No doubt about it. No excuses. But, Cincinnati, they got a long way to go, right? But I like them to beat Murray State. 35.5 seems like a lot, but hey, I'll take that line. I'll take, maybe if it drops to 34, I'll definitely 100% do that. But 35.5, it is what it is. Jerome Ford, their running back, had 12 carries last week, 121 yards and a touchdown. So I expect him and Desmond to mix it up, mix it play action, do some running. I like that. I like Cincinnati. I like where they're going. I'll take Cincy all day. Then we got Mercer versus Bama. This is what I'm talking about. Bama's playing a nobody team. This is crazy. But look, Bama year in and year out don't make the playoffs this year, and they're the team to beat. They're the defending national champions for a reason. Starts with Nick Saban and their quarterback, Bryce Young. Balled out last week with 4 touchdowns. Look, Bama, they're Bama, dude. They're the best right now. They've been the best for the past decade consistently, year in and year out. And I understand they haven't won every single year, but look, dude, it's Alabama, dude. The best players in the country want to play for Nick Saban in Alabama. It's proven. I'll take Bama all day, every day. That's a no-brainer. Then we got Iowa versus Iowa State. Iowa State's 4.5-point favorites. This is going to be a great game. We saw what Iowa did to IU. Really embarrassed them, blew them out, and really IU didn't look like they were ready at all. I just think, with Iowa's defense, man, the way they proved to stop, IU, Michael Penix Jr., just really, I like Iowa with the upset here. I understand they're underdogs, but Tyler Goodson, 99 yards and a touchdown on 19 attempts versus IU. Look, I think they're going to break it out and really put clamps on Brock and Breece Hall. Look, dude, look, Iowa State, they're legit 100%, but I think defense wins championships, and ultimately I'm going with Iowa over Iowa State. 46 is the over-under. You guys can decide that, but I definitely like Iowa. Then we got NC State versus Clemson. Clemson's 49.5-point favorites. Look, Clemson, they need to come out this game. Obviously, NC State is not good. Let's be real here. DJ was shaking up. Just did not play well, threw the pick six. They just did not look good. Dabo Sweeney just did not look ready. Clemson just looked like they just didn't want to play, really. It's kind of, hurtful, but look, it's not over for Clemson. Like I said before, the last team to win it all who lost an opening game was the U back in 1983. They ended up winning the national championship. So that could be Clemson, but I'll take Clemson overall 100%. Then we got WCU versus Oklahoma. Like I said, another weak team that Oklahoma's playing. Oklahoma 49.5-point favorites. To me, WCU's quarterback, he's going to have a heck of a game. Reagan Wells, look, he had one touchdown and 2 picks last game. That's not going to cut against Oklahoma. Spencer Rattler, look, dude, 1 touchdown and 2 picks against Tulane. That's not going to cut it to be on Heisman. That's not going to cut it to win a national championship in college football. You're going to have to prove us something. So to me, is it all hype? What is it, Oklahoma? Is it hype or is it the real deal? I don't know. I'll go Oklahoma, but I will not take the 49.5. I'll go money line Oklahoma. That's a no-brainer. Then we got Texas versus Arkansas. Texas, 7-point favorites here. To me, it's just like it's the same. Texas, Oklahoma, they're just so inconsistent, right? We're used to Texas and Oklahoma always winning national championships, right? And I will say, yes, Texas back in 2006, but dude, were the iPhones even out in 2006? Like, let's be real here. Vince Young, it was just so long ago, but, ultimately, playing an SEC school, Arkansas could get an upset here. DJ Jefferson, he had 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Traylon Smith, their running back, over 100 yards with a touchdown. But I think, ultimately it's Texas throwing game. It starts with Hudson and the receiver, Jordan Whittington. Look, 7 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Look, it's really, for Texas, it's like, are you guys the real deal? Is Texas football going to be back? I'll take Texas, but this might be an upset alert game here. Arkansas could upset Texas, which sounds crazy. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll go Texas. But, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, dude, Arkansas could pull this upset bid. You just never know, but I'll take Texas. Then we got Eastern Michigan versus Wisconsin. We saw what happened last week with Wisconsin, dude. Graham Mertz, their quarterback, played a terrible game. 2 interceptions versus Penn State, and they came late. To me, I expect them to bounce back. I expect Wisconsin to beat Eastern Michigan. Now, if Eastern Michigan does end up winning this will be insanely upset. But I got to go Wisconsin. 26 is a lot. But still, Wisconsin, they got to prove to me. If they can't win by over 26, then we know Wisconsin, they're out of the top 10 for the rest of the year, and that's that. But I'll take Wisconsin. Then we got Appalachian State versus the U. We remember Appalachian State back in 2007, 2008, when they upset Michigan at Michigan. That was the most iconic, probably the best upset we've ever seen in college football history, no doubt. And it starts with Appalachian State's quarterback, Chase Bryce, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick last week. Their running back had 15 carries, 126 yards. Nate Knoll, he's got to run all over them. But obviously the U, coming off that loss against against Bama, obviously Bama, the best team in the country, but the U, it starts with their quarterback, King. He had 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown and 2 picks versus Bama, but that's not cutting it. So I expect him to bounce back. We saw a season-ending injury last year. I expect him to bounce back, have a great year this year, and I expect the U to beat Appalachian State. That would be an upset as well. 8.5 is the spread. I'll take that all day at the U. 100%. Then we got Georgia State versus North Carolina. North Carolina played terrible last week versus Virginia Tech, and it started with their quarterback. Sam Howell, it was a disgrace. 1 touchdown and 3 picks. But, dude, it's crazy versus Virginia Tech. You can't win a national championship throwing more picks than interceptions in college football. You can maybe get away with it in the NFL, but not in college football. You just can't. But, I expect North Carolina to bounce back. 26 is a deep spread here. I would definitely go money line, but if you're feeling really comfortable and cocky and confident, definitely go North Carolina 26. 66 is the over-under. They're expecting it to be high scoring. I do too as well. I expect North Carolina to break it open, but I'll still roll with the under there if you guys are betting on the over-unders. Then we got Utah versus BYU. This is great, right? Utah, the only state where you can marry multiple women. Hey, I might have to move out to Utah one time for the one time. But anyway, their quarterback, Charlie Brewer, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception last week for Utah. Look, and it really starts with them, and it starts with their running back, Tyrone Thomas. 12 carries, 107 yards, and 2 touchdowns. BYU obviously losing their star quarterback. He got drafted by the Jets. But to me, is BYU really legit? I don't know. Jared Hall, 2 touchdowns last week. But ultimately, I got to go Utah here. I don't think BYU's really skilled enough on defense to compete against Utah's offense. Therefore, I'm going to go Utah. I'll take the 7 points all day. 49 is the over-under. I'll go with the over in this one. I expect it to be high-scoring, no doubt. Then we got Stanford versus USC. USC 17-point favorites. Stanford lost the opening game. Look, Stanford, they're terrible. They're overrated this year. That's another weak team that Notre Dame plays. So I'm going to go USC overall 17. I'll take the spread here. Drake London, their star receiver for USC. He had 12 receptions on 137 yards. I expect him to really get going here. 100%, but I like USC all day here, 100%. Then we got UNLV versus Arizona State. Arizona State, 34-point favorites. I'll go money line here. 34 is just crazy here, dude. It's amazing to me what these spreads are in college football. It's insane. But I'll go Arizona State, with the money line, easy. Then we got Purdue versus Yukon. Purdue, look, their quarterback, Jack Plummer, he's a beast, 313 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. And then David Bell, their star receiver, 8 receptions and 134 yards. Look, they're playing Yukon at Yukon. I expect Purdue to come out, score a lot of points, and really dominate. So I'll take Purdue. 34 is definitely a deep spread, but I'll take that all day. Then we got Idaho versus IU. IU looked terrible last week. And this is the time where IU needs to turn their season around and win out every single game from here on out. Yes, they play some great teams this year in the Big Ten, but ultimately, I'm going to go IU. I expect Michael Penix Jr. to have a bounce-back game from throwing 3 picks last game, but I expect IU to come out. Their defense, I expect urgency here. I expect ball hogs. I expect big hits from IU to prove to us, hey, IU's legit this year. That just wasn't a fluke year last year. So come on, IU. I like IU over Idaho all day, every day. Then we got Washington versus Michigan. Look, Michigan, dude, it's almost the same every year. They lose to Ohio State year in and year out, with Harbaugh. I can't believe he's still coaching there. I would have fired him a couple of years ago. But ultimately, I'll take Washington. I almost said Washington. But I'll take Michigan at home. I expect them to win. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Washington gets the upset here. 100%, dude. And it starts with their quarterback who had a terrible game last week. 3 interceptions. Dylan Morris, he's got to turn it around. You're playing in Michigan. This is going to be big. But ultimately, I like Michigan Wolverines to win over 7. I'll take that spread all day, every day, baby. College football is here, baby. Week 2, I love it. My Irish, they got to come out and destroy Toledo and win out and make the playoffs this year, baby. It's the Clown with Cab show. Let's go!